Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Good evening, dear televiewers of Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. First, our major stories. Is the government of Cameroon trying to seal the lips of those denouncing the credibility of results of the upcoming presidential elections? A whistleblower, Abasi Jubaru, was picked up at his residence in Gaundari and taken to an unknown destination. The young activist is alleged to be the one who released a video of a man dressed in CPDM attire in possession of hundreds of national identity cards. Family members expressed grave concerns while calling for the release of their son. Away from that, complaints raised by bishops of Cameroon over the socio-economic situation of the country continue rising to the sky. The bishops are discussing the issues plaguing the country and other issues concerning the church. These topics were raised on day one of the seminar taking place in Boya, which is a chief town of the southwest region. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. If you're just joining us, then know you're watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast, and for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogway. We begin over in the Bamenda, which is a chief town of the northwest region, where at least 4 people have reportedly been killed and civil orders arrested following a military raid that took place in a popular drug hideout in Old Town Bamenda. Eyewitnesses claim they have seen 1 corpse on the scene, with reports alleging that 3 more victims succumbed to injuries sustained during the operation. We have greater details with our Northwest Chief Correspondent, Bo Stella.
Family members are in distress since the disappearance of their brother Jubaru. They say he was taken away on Christmas Eve alongside his associate at Bali neighborhood in the town of Ngaoundiri.
Residents of Old Town are still grappling with the aftermath of what they describe as a chaotic and terrifying Monday evening. Witnesses say soldiers arrived at the vicinity targeting a particular building. They later knocked on doors and even forced their way into properties, including the nearby Vision FM radio station, as they pursued their targets. When I received a call that soldiers had forced themselves into the radio station, I had to do all to come. When I came here, I realized that a laptop that was on the table, a bag containing other gadgets, had been taken away. Shortly after the incident, residents claimed to have seen a corpse at the scene. 3 others who escaped with injuries later died. This is not the first time security forces have cracked down on drug consumers, but the trade continues to thrive, raising questions over the effectiveness of such actions. Residents have expressed frustrations over the persistent issue, calling for more decisive actions to end the sale and consumption of drugs in Bamenda. This latest incident has reignited debate over how best to tackle the growing drug problem in neighborhoods like Old Town in particular and Bamenda in general.
Reporting there. Now to our major story. The whereabouts of an activist in the town of Gaundari in the Adamawa region, Jubaru, is not known. The young man has been reported missing since the 24th of December 2024. Family members link his arrest to a video which has been circulating online showing a man dressed in CPDM uniform in possession of over 100 national identity cards. We have details in this report compiled by Mala Glory.
Family members are in distress since the disappearance of their brother Jubaru. They say he was taken away on Christmas Eve alongside his associate at Bali neighborhood in the town of Ngaoundiri.
Ils étaient à deux avec son complice et on l'a pris, on a libéré son complice, lui on l'a emporté, on ne sait même pas sur quelle direction ils sont partis dans la soirée. Et ceux qui l'ont enlevé n'ont aucun des signes, ni le présenter un plainte, ni le présenter une convocation. Ça veut dire qu'un enlèvement. Ils étaient en civil, avec un pick-up 4x4.
He explained that the men who took the victim away were not dressed in uniform and did not present any warrant of arrest. Another relation who wished to remain anonymous explained that Jubairu's accomplice after his release suspected that the men who were in black took the victim to the Central Police Station. Unfortunately, while at the police station, there were no trace of Jubairu.
Grande surprise, il y avait personne au nom de Jubairu.
This comes after a video circulating on social media shows a man who is said to be a CPDM militant brandishing lots of identity cards in a private home in the Adamawa region.
En réalité, Abbas Jubairu est victime de son engagement.
Jubairu's friend says the activist is simply a victim of his social commitment to fight fraud, especially on the issue of identity cards that is persisting in the country. To him, the CPDM militants decided to keep these identity cards as a possible means to trick the upcoming elections.
De voler les élections présidentielles à venir.
Meantime, search has been multiplied in this part of the country to locate Jubairu.
Now to something else. The governor of the far north region of Cameroon, Mijiawa Bakari, in a recent communique, has instructed administrative officials to hunt and kill elephants seen wandering about. Mijiawa Bakari's decision is in response to the havoc caused by the elephants, which have killed at least 7 people in Kalfu, a locality in Mayudanai division. Ese Luciengu with the details.
The damage caused by elephants in Kalfu, Mayudanai division of the far north region has left farmers frustrated and in dismay. On January 6, 2025, these farmers took the streets, placing barricades with tree branches along the Yagua-Marwa stretch, expressing their worries. The people decry the fact that elephants have killed 7 of their brothers in recent months. The residents, while protesting, criticize authorities for being silent as elephants wander about, destroying crops. They suggest the animals be kept in a park. In a bid to calm the angry population, the senior divisional officer of Mayudanai and other authorities were on the field. They listened to the worries of the people while promising swift actions. Reacting to this urgent issue, the governor of the far north region, Mijiawa Bakari, in a communique dated January 6, 2025, authorizes administrative officials to hunt and kill any elephant destroying crops and properties in Kalfu, and that the local population could use the meat, birds, the heads of the elephants be handed over to authorities of the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife.
Now we talk something else. A passenger who was on board the Cameco flight QC22 that witnessed a cabin depressurization upon its landing at the airport in Garua last January 5, 2025, has described the scenario as the worst thing to have ever happened in her entire life. Ines Durrell was on board the flight with her 13-month-old baby. Smaji Kangebu met with Ines Durrell and put together the following report for the 6 p.m. primetime newscast.
Ines was one of the passengers on board the Camelco flight quinoxetv that sent fear to its occupant last January 5, 2025. We faced the problem of shortage of oxygen mask and a lot of turbulence. Ines wasn't on the flight alone on that fateful day. I traveled with my 13-month-old baby, and my fear began when all of the oxygen masks in the aeroplane didn't come out. My little daughter was amongst those who didn't have an oxygen mask, and I had to call the plane captain. When the situation within the aeroplane became complicated, the fear of Ines also added, particularly as she was traveling with her little child. I was so traumatized that my little child didn't have oxygen. I was already seeing her death in my hands. I even neglected myself so much that I started coughing, but my fear was towards my little girl. Things became complicated that I have to drag enough oxygen for myself and my little daughter, who became so uncomfortable with the situation.
Compliqué, c'est une expérience traumatisante.
In a media release from Camelco after the incident, they said it was a cabin depressurization that occurred. They added that the necessary response from the crew members was immediate to ensure the safety of the passengers who were on board. Going by the media release from the management of Camelco, the said flight quinoxetv is with technicians now going through thorough checks.
Now to religion. Bishops of the Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon have resolved not to stay indifferent to the sufferings of Cameroonians. This was during the opening ceremony of the 48th Conference of Bishops of Cameroon today, which is taking place in Boya. Our special envoy, Anna Bila, is in Boya and tells us that the prelates will be discussing about issues in relation to the state and the church for about 1 week now. Her report.
The 48th Annual Seminar of Bishops is coming at a time Cameroonians are decrying poor governance and the need for change in the country, especially from their leaders. As the bishops meet in Boya, the president of the National Episcopal Conference, His Grace Andrew Nkea, says though Cameroonians may be desperate, there is still hope for a better tomorrow.
When human beings lose hope, then there is no more life. Where there is life, there is hope. And therefore, 2025 is a year of hope, declared by Pope Francis as a Jubilee year. And we believe that our hope will not deceive us. We hope for a better future. We hope for a better country. We hope for more uprightness in the things that we do. Hope is a moral virtue, and hope will not deceive. Let Cameroonians not lose hope. Let us look to the future, hoping that it will be bright, and brighter that future will be.
According to him, the desired change in Cameroon must be collective efforts.
We all have to stand up. There is too much hypocrisy in Cameroon, too much pointing of fingers, everybody calling the other to act. Please, every Cameroonian should take their responsibility. We all have the destiny of this country in our hands, and we each have to play our own individual parts. You journalists, we bishops, political leaders, traditional rulers, farmers, traders, everybody has to stand up, fold their sleeves. Let us build our country, Cameroon.
His Grace Samuel Kleda of the Douala Archdiocese on his part says in no way can bishops in Cameroon be quiet or indifferent faced with the misery of Cameroonians.
Il faut encore le savoir, nous avons cette mission-là. Quand il y a des problèmes, nous, en tant que l'Église, nous devons dénoncer en vue d'avoir, n'est-ce pas, de trouver des solutions à ce qui ne doit pas dans notre pays.
We are here at the Bishop Pius Hour Pastoral Memorial Center in Buea, where over 33 bishops of all the dioceses in Archdiocese of Cameroon are attending the 48th plenary session of the bishops of the country. And the bishops say they are unanimous to the sufferings of the Cameroonian people. They say they cannot be neutral or sit on the fence regarding the suffering Cameroonians are going through, especially in these very delicate and dire moments of the country. Reporting live from the Archdiocese of Buea, I am Annabella Leke with the Ferengonti for Equinoxe Television.
Staff Lady Annabella thanks a bunch. Still in the same story, the Minister of Communication and Government spokesman Rene Manuel Sadi responds to the bishops calling on the head of state to step aside and give way to another leader. He says their calls are personal opinions based on unconfirmed information which should not influence the choice of Cameroonians. Rene Manuel Sadi dismissed allegations of a conflict between the government and the church. Babla Jonathan tells us more.
While acknowledging the right of all to freely express their opinions within the ambits of the laws of the Republic, the government of Cameroon deplores what it calls the vehemence of certain stands about the forthcoming presidential election and what is considered as an abusive interpretation of President Biya's end-of-year message to the nation, December 31st, 2024, concerning interpretations of the president's determination to continue serving the nation, pointing to his possible candidacy in the 2025 presidential election. The Minister of Communication reminds the population that his current 7-year mandate is still on course. He adds that the head of state had said at the appointed time he will say if he will stand for re-election or not. Responding to the bishops calling on the head of state to step aside, he says those are individual opinions of the bishops based on unfounded information and should not be interpreted as a conflict between the church and the government. The government spokesperson emphasizes that there is no conflict between the government and the religious denominations, particularly the Catholic Church. The government reaffirms that Cameroon is a democratic state governed by the rule of law, where citizens, whoever they may be, can express themselves freely and make their points of view known on issues of national interest. Minister Rene Manuel Sadi reassures Cameroonians that the President of the Republic and competent institutions are working to ensure a transparent and peaceful presidential election later this year.
On the same vein, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front SDF party, Honorable Joshua Osi, has said his party will use all legal means possible to put an end to what is now qualified as the catastrophic 42-year reign of President Paul Biya. Speaking to reporters today in Douala, Honorable Joshua Osi called on all Cameroonians to put their hands on deck to kick out the head of state from the Unity Palace to change the extremely bad socio-economic situation of the country, characterized by embezzlement, poverty, hardship, corruption, and poor governance. Here's an extract of what he said, or what he told Babla Jonathan.
There is no way, and by whatever means possible, that the SDF will stand by to see this first republic, this regime that has been in power since 64 or 65 years today, continue this work of putting down this country, of letting down its citizens, of making sure that we become not second-class citizens, but a mockery to the rest of Africa. We will not let this happen. And we are calling for all and sundry to join us to make sure that we do everything possible in 2025, because the Constitution, if it's not changed before October, imposes a presidential election. And unfortunately, only the presidential election can usher in this change. We're calling on all who can afford to go and register, to make sure that they have an electoral card, to change where they are registered. If they got registered in Bamenda and today because of the war they find themselves in Bafoussam, Yaoundé, Douala or elsewhere, let them change their seat of registration. Let them make sure that they are ready for October, and they should do this today to make sure that they are ready, so that we change this narrative and we take back our country, and so that power finally comes back to the people. In a democracy, the people bring about change, not the politicians. So the people have to want that change to happen. The people have to say stop to potholes, stop to current shortages, stop to low salaries, stop to unemployment, stop to all of that. If they believe that that is what has to happen, and that we have to start working towards a better Cameroon, that is what will happen. But it is the people who have to take that decision. And we, just as you, the journalists, we send out a message of hope. We give informed opinions about what is going on, and they have to judge and go into the ballot and do that choice. And I sincerely hope that in 2025 that is what will happen.
Joshua O.C., National Chairman of the Social Democratic Front, speaking to Babila Jonathan. Now to education, students have been urged by their teachers to remain disciplined and assiduous. Welcoming the students after the 2 weeks break, they were called upon to desist from deviant behaviors that will affect their performance during this academic year. Smart Jikangable visited the Government Technical High School Nous and Government Bilingual High School Manengwase, where the calls were made. His report.
At the Government Technical High School of Nous in the Mongo Division, students who came late were stopped at the entrance. Seconds later, they were made to pick dirt in the entire school compound before getting into their different classes. Some students of the Government Bilingual High School in Manengwasa also came late, and the principal was disappointed.
I've been really frowned.
I was very disappointed with some students who came late to school because they think they were still on holidays. I told them clearly that it is time for them to study.
Enjoyment don't pass. Now time for come for school now.
As the second term of the 2024-2025 school year officially started after the festive season at the different assembly grounds of GTHS Nous and GBHS Manengwasa, the message from the principals was for the students to be more serious, since it is a short term with several public holidays.
I talk for them, say
I have told them that the term is a very short one, but very decisive, so they have to work extremely hard. It has many public holidays too. Those who had good averages should maintain it, and those who didn't have the right average in the first term should work extremely hard.
I tell them, say, make them work hard.
They should continue to work hard and remain disciplined, since there will be many activities too. They should be punctual and respect the internal rules and regulations.
Le respect, n'est-ce pas, des dispositions du règlement intérieur.
The students on their part say they are aware of the challenges ahead.
He said that let's all work hard in order to progress gradually in this academic year. Each student shall work hard, and we promise ourselves that we shall also work hard as our principal asks us.
The bad attitude of commercial motorcycle riders carrying more than one student was also decried by school authorities, who beg for security forces to intervene to curb the situation, which could be very fatal if an accident occurs.
Smart Jikangable ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight on Talking Point is His Lordship Sosthene BAYEMI. He is the Bishop of the Diocese of Obala. Good evening. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. You and other bishops are taking part in the 48th seminar holding in Boya, Chieftown of the Southwest region. What are objectives of this particular seminar?
Let me explain one thing before I go to the one objective. Each year we have two meetings. The first one is this one, we call it seminar. It goes around many dioceses. The second one is after Easter, we call it the plenary assembly. It is always in Volie. And during the plenary assembly, it is to see how the church is going around in our institutions. But now it is about a theme that we started some years ago. It is around about the synodality how can we live the synodality in the context of our local church. What we mean by local church is the Catholic Church in Cameroon, but also the particular churches, that is the different dioceses. We can even go down to the level of the parishes. A synodality means that concept from the gospel, that means walking together, walking, that is traveling together, not alone, walking together at the same direction. We want to see how synodality can be a criterion of efficiency in our church. That is, a bishop walking alone, thinking alone, deciding alone. Is it different from a bishop deciding, thinking, working with laymen, laywomen, priests, catechists, and all the like? So the church is calling on us to see that praying together, discerning together, deciding together, and applying the decisions together will allow us to have best fruits. That's what we want to do during this seminar.
Now, my Lord, His Grace Andrew Kia, the presiding bishop, said the Holy Father, Pope Francis, opened the Jubilee year by calling on Christians to be hopeful. Can you enlighten us more about the message of the Pope?
Okay, every 25 years in the church, we have what you call Jubilee. Jubilee is a word from the Bible. It is an expression that portrays an act that was done at a certain moment to stop, to celebrate, and to think about the future. So after every 25 years, the last one was at the year 2000 with John Paul II, Holy John Paul II. It is a time for the church to think again a bit, to thank God for what it has done, and to project herself in the future. This year, the Holy Father decided that the theme is on Romans chapter 5, verse 5. Hope doesn't disappoint. It means reflecting on how we can be pilgrims of hope. Hope is one of the three, what we call theological virtues. There are three of them: faith, hope, and charity. And hope is that virtue according to which we desire above every other thing the kingdom of God, the eternal life. And we know that it is the promise of Christ, and that promise of Christ is realized in our life by the help of the Holy Spirit. So we want to merge both of them. How hope, that is the capacity for a Christian not to be disappointed, not to be discouraged, but to persevere, to be creative, to innovate, can help us when we are together to better the life of both our church and our country.
Now, Cameroonians have for years now been clamoring, or let's say hoping for a change at the helm of the regime. Is there a possibility of contextualizing the outing of the Pope to our current context, given the precarious living conditions of the population at the moment?
The team is worldwide. It is not decided by us, it is decided by the Holy Father. Once he was not thinking about Cameroon, but then the problem is not only in Cameroon. If you see the whole world, I can bring it down. And when the president of the CEMAC met the last time, if you read their communiqué final, it is really pessimistic. They are saying that things are not doing very well. They are taking decision to make sure that we can go ahead. And even the speech of the head of state was not too optimistic. So we Cameroonians, we bishops, we believers, we say what the Holy Father decided is really helpful even for us, because our context is not very good. I can give you some examples. Many doctors that I know, medical doctors, are leaving Cameroon to go to Canada. And somebody is not flying from his country because things are good. So there's a real problem. What should we do, we believers, we bishops? We are saying to Cameroonians, let us stand together. Cameroon is our country. We don't have two countries. We don't have to go away from our country. We have to organize ourselves. We have to persevere. We have to work hard. We have to create new things. We have to, and this message is for everybody, from the head of state to the catechist, passing through us, the bishop, because we have, each one of us has the capacity to better something, to do something that can change Cameroon. And not at the same level. The head of state, the ministers, the governors, the bishops are not in the same level as the catechist. But everybody, each one of us is supposed to play his part to make sure that this year, which is a crucial year, passes very well. We are supposed to pray. It is true, but not only praying. We're supposed to work, to create new venues, to innovate, to persevere, to fight. So we say in Latin, ora et labora.
And everyone is hoping that our hopes shall not be shattered by the current regime. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Coming up next in some few minutes is a program Equinoxe presented by Serge Alon Otu. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye for now.